Hi, Leather Rock here. Welcome to my channel. And here's Tabby Boy. You know what? I think I'm going to ambush him since he was such a good sport and he didn't run away from me. Oh, look like I have my beautiful pussycat. Oh, my goodness. Hello, sweetheart. My sweetheart Tabby Boy. And I welcome you to today's live stream. And oh, how you doing? You so sleepy? You're not sneezing anymore, are you? No, how you doing? And he's not breathing through his mouth. And I don't know what the status of his breath is because I never sniff it. So I don't know. I never imagined my cat's breath is any good. That's okay. At least he doesn't have at least he doesn't have gas problems. So I am very lucky. I've been very lucky in that department with my kitties. Yes, they're not particularly stinky except for, well, the cleaning bit. Yes, oh, my baby, I'll watch it. I don't want any eye surgery. So I wanted to, you guys are probably going to laugh. I'm going to show you something that has been bedeviling me for about a month now. I have been trying to get this light to work, and I don't know what the heck my problem is. This is ridiculous. I am not the most talented when it comes to electronics, apparently, and I was in the kitchen where the light's right over me, and I don't think the light's any better in there, but I had it plugged in, and I was trying touching this all over, and I didn't see that it was on, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I need to open it up and see if I can maybe change the lights on it. But no matter what kind of Phillips head screwdriver I used, it seemed like none of these screws were meant to be open, like they were glued shut or whatever. And I was almost on the verge of contacting or just showing up to Best Buy when I finally show up there with my computers and cell phone and every other electronic whatever that I still need some figuring out. I was just going to bring it along with me. I figured, if they would tell them because they're supposed to take care of all my electronics, for the total tech support I pay every month for, that means, it's just a matter of getting there. But anyway, I happened to take this into my room with the express intention of showing this on this live stream. But then as I turn it on here and touch it all over, then all of a sudden I see it glowing, and how, depending on how many times I touch it, is how intense. It's kind of like a three-way light bulb how many times you turn the switch is how bright it gets. So that's basically the function this is. And one side is a magnifier and the other side is a regular. So I have a ring light now. So anyway, now I finally figured it out. Anyway, a victory's a victory. But there's an interesting theme that I think today's live stream is going to be. Well, first of all, I'm going to push this in a little bit further, and I really don't want it to get knocked over. Part of the theme of today's live stream is going to be rediscovering old things, or new uses for old things, or old things, or also uh, dealing with things that I've been putting off for a while. I do tend to procrastinate more than I should, and time is not always our friend. And so sometimes you really need to light that fire under the proverbial backside and get things done. Hi, Shar, how you doing? Tabby boy's an armful, isn't he? So there is some projects that I kind of have been putting off, but that I really have been wanting to do. And one of them involves kitchen herbs. I really love to play around in the kitchen. I love my herbs and spices, and it's wonderful being a gardener and being able to grow some of the wonderful things that I use in my cooking. And one of the things that I do when I buy my herbs and spices at the dollar store, if I get really big, sturdy containers, sometimes I hold on to them. They have especially large ones, even though I would prefer glass containers. Glass is just so much better as far as being a pure way to store things, and you can get a real good airtight seal on them. And but I also will use, usually you end up getting those plastic jars, and sometimes you get the ones that are quite big. And so I have one that we've had for a couple of years now that it's had rosemary in it. And what I'm about to do today, I'm going to put this coffee grinder to use for something other than weed. But, well, let me close this door because my voice might carry. So, yeah, I got things to say. What I'm going to do is set this down someplace comfortable here. Emmanuel, good evening. Hi. Happy New Year. Man, it's so exciting what's going on in Washington, D.C. I was invited to go to Washington, but I told him, I said, I'm afraid to go out there with COVID, with all these things are getting so bad, and I'm afraid of catching it and bringing it back here and getting my mother exposed. Otherwise, I would love to be in Washington, D.C. I'd love to be there right now. I would love to be there on the 20th, no matter what the actual reason is. I mean, I have friends there. I have a place to stay, you know. The only thing is you have to worry about people getting all violent and stuff. But anyway, to carry on my train of thought, I have, let's see, some things here that I should put into my ashtray here. And then I have something to put in here, and I have something to grind because I am going to grind some of my fresh dry rosemary using this. I find that usually when you pick your own rosemary or when you buy it in the stores, it's usually in the pine needle kind of format. And so when you cook with it, you end up picking it out of your teeth, and and it can be real painful. If you ever get a piece of rosemary stuck up in your gum, it's not fun. If it gets in a crack that you may have in your tooth or something, or anyway, yeah, they can be really painful. So what I like to do, and one time when I was in Los Angeles, I got a big Ziploc bag full of them, like, the 12-inch Ziploc bags, the really big ones, full of rosemary. And I put them through one of these grinders, got them nice and powdery. And I'm telling you, that was a joy to cook with. To put it in your chicken soups, as a rub for your meats. When you bake a chicken, I like to score a chicken up all over. Then I like to peel the skin off, but not discard the skin. That fat has flavor. Uh, I like to stuff inside, salt the outside of your chicken, stuff between the fat and the skin that's been scored, stuff some herbs on there, and then seal it back up with your skin. Then put salt and some more herbs on the skin. And use the skin to just wrap the fat and all the flavor from the herbs in your meat. Oh, I could never totally give up meat. I'm sorry, it tastes too good. I could never give up bread, so I could never be low carb. I'm sorry. That's one thing. I probably never have to worry about being anorexic because I enjoy food too much. But that said, I don't eat if I'm not hungry. And usually I prefer not to eat before I'm filming because I don't want it to show on my stomach. But you know what? Today I was really craving rice and squid. You ever had canned squid? And they have it, sometimes Goya puts it out, and a lot of companies, well, not a lot of companies, put it out, and they have it in the garlic sauce. It's oil with garlic in it. And just add some salt to that. Oh my goodness, just a little bit of the oil and a few pieces of the squid and put that over white rice. I'm telling you, if you don't think you died and gone to heaven, I think it's just very sublime. And even though you really should balance it out with having a vegetable. And plus, if you really want to get enough protein, you really need to have enough meat to be substantially having a protein source. But I'm just saying that is very sublime. So anyway, I will quickly show this, and then I'm gonna grind it. But that's not the subject of this video, so I don't want to get in trouble with anybody. I do want to say something though about these. When you want to scrape off the powdery stuff that acquires from when you grind and weed, it's really good to clean this off. A guitar pick. And you can use a textured kind like this that's made by Fender, or you can use something that's really flat by Dunlop, or you can use, and this is a real thin one, or you can use those thicker, like tortoiseshell like ones. I had most of mine are in my room. Some of them, of course, I wouldn't use this way because they are keepsakes from concerts. Especially, the ones with special logos on them. Those are in a special pot. I have all kinds of guitar picks, and I have a lot more in my storage in Los Angeles. But anyway, another thing that you can use if you want to get all the fine stuff off of the inside of your grinder, say you're getting ready to grind something else and you don't want to waste this stuff, and you know that you have enough to make a bowl. I mean, you're not going to waste that. So anyway, you use your guitar pick as a scraper, as a scoop, and you very carefully, you don't, you get a hold, you want to give a really hard hold on your guitar pick so that it doesn't snap up in the air and have your finely powdered particulate matter just get up in the air and onto the table, or even worse, onto the carpet. Don't let that happen to you. That if that was the very last of your relaxation inhalation, you don't want to waste it. But I certainly don't want to waste any of the stuff if I'm about to grind rosemary. So it's very imperative that I get all this stuff so that I not to waste it. I could seriously get a bowl or two just from this. Matter of fact, you know what? So I don't have to waste. You see, now that's the thing is after I grind the rosemary, then I'm going to have to very carefully clean this the same way. One thing that rosemary and cannabis have in common is they both are very resiny. And if you handle rosemary normally to take it off of its stems, like if you're putting it around a chicken before baking it, even though a lot of chefs just take whole branches and stick it around. And the reason why they do it is to make it easier to take it out when the cooking is done, so that you don't have to pick pieces of the herb out when you're cooking, kind of like with bay leaves. They usually put a whole bay leaf in your soup or whatever, and it does make cleanup easier. And let's face it, bay leaves, no matter how much you cook them, it's still a hard, not edible texture-wise thing. So I've never eaten one. It's always felt like a real scratchy leaf. But anyway, you scratch like this, and you get all the particulate matter to kind of get all in one place. And then if it's enough that you can scoop using your guitar pick, that's great. Just be very careful. Load it into your bowl or put it safely in the ashtray. Maybe the ashtray bit would be a really good thing to do if you're pressed for time. But I am going to grind this a little bit here so that I can get started on the rosemary. And I don't need, whoops, oh, my garter belt, you didn't see this. My garter belt just caught on something here in the room, and it actually stopped me from moving. That's happened on doorknobs before. It's just, it gets you, it stops you in your tracks. What can you do? Anyway, let me grind this real quickly here. Okay. All right. Sooner I can get this done, the sooner I can show you the rosemary, because I've got quite a large amount of it. I've got several big envelopes. I've been harvesting it, well, basically since the first time I picked some was when I actually got escorted by the farmer when the gangs were being so hectic that I really had to have somebody walk me from my entrance, or one of them, to the garden. When the gangs were hanging out literally every day, all day and all night, and there's always somebody hanging out facing on our doors, and it was just really unnerving. Now at least they take breaks, and when it gets colder, it's not as constant. But sometimes you'll be lulled into a sense of complacency by how peaceful and quiet it is, and then all of a sudden it gets active. Like, it was kind of not too bad yesterday, but then around 3, 4 in the morning, people were getting really rude and obnoxious. And at one point, I actually got maybe more assertive than I should have, and I threw open my window and I barked at them that it's really not fair that we don't get any time at all to sleep. You can't do it in the daytime, you can't do it at nighttime, and all these people who do not live here, that have to just hang out and make their calls and do their, what I can only guess must be illegal activities, which if they would only be a little bit more discreet about it, I wouldn't even know about it. But when they're disturbing the people who pay way too much money to live in this area, and we cannot escape what they do to us. And I know that it's you can't make somebody have a conscience. You can't make somebody care. But it seems to me that when you tell people things like, how would you feel if somebody came to where you lived and did this to you? I'm trying to see it from their point of view, that they're just trying to make a buck. But in whatever line of business they're in, and I can guess what it is, there's not one specific place where they have to do it. It's a sort of thing that you can do. It's a business of opportunity, and there are so many places that have plenty of foot traffic and are centrally located and are full of people who might have money. I mean, in a town like this, that's not a problem. But to be where there's too much residential, that's just really disruptive, and it's not fair to the people who live here. I could just imagine if this was a bedroom here, this room, my God, especially when the house next door was an abandoned building for a while, and there was all kinds of things going on there. Because for a while there, I didn't know that it was an abandoned building. And normally I have a compassion with people that are using abandonments. I have been a squatter before, and I have lived with punk rockers and stuff, even drunk punks who are notoriously drunk and disorderly. But it's not because they're intending to be disorderly. They just can't be considerate when you're drunk. You can't really think about your impact on other people. You just aren't aware of it. I know from the fact that I used to drink, and you can't be conscious of how you're stressing people out by your stupidity, because you just don't have that. It's very rare that you would have that focus on yourself like that. And usually by the time you finally do, it's so embarrassing. But that's oftentimes what helps people to either seek help or to just stop. And in fact, I'm sure that's how most of us stop. Hi, Yogi. How are you doing? Uh, I hope I can be. I hope I'm discreet enough for what I'm doing, cleaning this out of all the goodies so that I can put Rosemary in it. And I just did what I told you not to do, and I almost threw some of this very finely pulverized, THC filled, powdered bud. Powder. Sometimes when it's really, really, really powdery, the best thing to do is to take a finger. This doesn't work if you have long fingernails, I'm just saying. Get it as close to a pile. And when it's nice and thick, then just very carefully scratch it, and you should get little avalanches of solids, like thick layer of solid powder. And the rest of it, just finger hash it carefully into the jar. And this jar has sentimental value for me. It was given to me by a friend in Washington, D.C., who got it from one of the medical marijuana dispensaries. So, and that's how I transported some back the first time I brought legal weed back from Washington, D.C. Oh, and since it's New Year's now, weed is officially legal in the state of New Jersey. It's legal, it's legal, it's legal. You can't bust me. It's legal, it's legal. Hello, New Jersey. But this is not what this video is about. So I don't want YouTube to think that this is a weed video. It's not. It's really, this has nothing to do with it. I just have to clean this grinder so that I can grind the rosemary. And when you see how much I have, and it's a good thing I got everything off the lid of that, because I just knocked it onto my floor. And it fell down totally face down too. Okay, one more finger. See, this is not rehearsed. You can't edit a live stream. This is just real. Oh, and if you think I didn't cough up some lungs just before I went on, come on, man. You know I did. Gonna make some more finger hash. I feel like my fingers are just totally covered with resin. Okay. All right, now. And now, one thing it's really important to do, I can't stress this enough, after you use your electric grinder for an herb like rosemary, then it's very important to clean off the grinder, wipe it off, and then clean it off with alcohol. You've got to dissolve those resins, because you do not want rosemary or other culinary herbs to end up getting in your weed, which I could see that happening when you get all the stuff on your fingers and stuff. So, okay, now that we did this, let's come into the kitchen. Get some rosemary. And I gotta be very careful where I'm stepping, because my left hand, or my left wrist, is feeling a little tiny bit of that arthritis. Just a wee little bit. And when I put all the weight on that hand, that might leave me in a vulnerable spot there. Okay, but everything's good. Okay, oh, hi, Tabby boy. What's up, baby? Oh, meow. And you know what? I think I'm going to plug in here. The only light is from the Christmas tree. And a close-up look at the tree. But sorry to spoil the ambiance here. I'm going to turn the light on. And I'm going to come back and get the cord so that I can plug this in. Let me check, see. Okay, this should be cool enough. And I'm going to turn the light on here. I'm at 84% of power, so actually I don't need to plug in right now. I'm going to get my grinder ready, and I'm going to show you just how much rosemary I have already. I took the liberty of, okay, where is it? All right, now I had 2 envelopes this size. This contains some lavender, and every time I harvest some more, I put the dates on here. And I know there is, oh, now I have something, some parts of it that I have not washed yet, which is this stuff here. As a matter of fact, sometime today I'll do that. You may end up seeing me go through that. So, and this stuff here. These things were put here to differentiate from the things that I actually soap and water washed when things fell on my floor. I'm a germaphobe. I'm sorry. If you're going to have something that would go ultimately in your body, but it's going to fall on the ground, and now obviously with marijuana, I'm not going to do that. Unless, of course, it was marijuana that I was going to be putting in brownies or something. But if it's something that like say rosemary, but I'm dropped on my floor, this floor that I've stepped my filthy, dirty feet on, that the cat's paws walk on, and you know what else the cat's paws touch? So the floor, as far as I'm concerned, is an E. coli-ridden cesspool. So anything that touches that ground has to get sanitized. So if I drop a potato on the ground, yes, I'm going to soap and water wash it, and then rinse it real good. I'm sorry, I'm funny that way. So anyway, I took like four or five envelopes worth of rosemary, and I put them in one of these containers, and it's about a third of the way. And this is what rosemary looks like. Oops. Wish you could smell this. Here, I'm gonna down here. See. Can you see this? But this, I'm going to put in the grinder, and I want to get it nice and fine. You know what? I want to see if there's any more. You know what? There's a tiny, tiny, tiny few crumbs. It's not enough that can help my lungs out any, and it won't hurt this. I'm sure I'm going to have to do this in batches. I can't do it all at once. It's funny, since we've had this has only been used for coffee one time. We had 1 pound, 1 pound bag of whole coffee beans. And I remember the day that I started sneaking this off to use for other reasons. And I'm really surprised I got away with using it this long. I thought for sure that I get called out. Oh, Leathur, why is it I can't find a coffee bean thing? But the thing is, we have not had coffee beans. We've had ground coffee, so there really hasn't been like there's been a need where somebody would say, oh, what happened to? So now and then I see something that looks like an obvious stem, and anything that looks really woody, it's best to take out. But you know what? For the most part, I can't imagine that they would really be harmful. I'm gonna keep these long ones here, and this is how it's almost at the top. Not really, but close to it. And I'm gonna put the thing on, and I'm gonna use the outlet where her table is. Her table, my mother's table here, it actually functions kind of as a desk and as an office for her. So even though it looks like a mess and there's all kinds of envelopes and papers, that's how she does her bills, and there's a method to the madness. And even though in some ways it also is a catch-all for some of the things I set down, I am careful to put things only certain places. Like sometimes I put makeup brushes there because I know that that's where that's close enough to the sink that I will be able to wash them. I always wash my makeup brushes every day. Because can you imagine if I let a day or two go where I didn't, that it would be like 5 or 6 brushes a day times two. That would really add up. So I like to keep on them. Anyway, I'm going to get started with this grinder. Oh, help if I got it close. I really want a nice and powdery. One thing is when it gets powdery, it gives a certain coating on the outside, so it's hard to tell through looking at it if it's ground far enough. But and of course, if it is powdery, some of it will get airborne. But you can definitely tell that rosemary is a resiny herb. It's so just like with pot when you grind it, and the resin makes it stick, and it gets kind of a challenge. Sometimes you have to use a butter knife and wedge that in there and wiggle it. And I don't want to keep dirtying knives, so hold on. I'm going to get the one from the grow room. Okay. Here. You definitely don't want to use a steak knife. You want to use something that's got a rounded edge, no serration, so that you don't uh, damage the electronics. Good. From my experience, these things don't really last all that long, but probably because of all the multi-herbal uses I put them through. I think as long as you clean things in between the kinds of uses you put them in, and as long as you don't use the same kind for things that might be potentially poisonous. Like for instance, I have a mortar and pestle that I use for my magical stuff. And so if I'm making, say, an incense recipe, and it has frankincense and myrrh and the different resinous incenses that are actually resins from trees or certain tree barks, tree saps, that the sap comes out of the tree, kind of like maple syrup comes out of trees, except that there are resins that they come out of trees and then they dry and they get hard, and you can shave them off and put them on charcoal and you burn them and they smell like things you would recognize from churches and temples and stuff. Really beautiful incenses that you can make, some just from one single herb or a single resin, or mixtures of resins and herbs and things. Now, there's some things that you're going to expect to smell good that would be very disappointing, such as much as you love, most people agree that roses smell wonderful. But if you've ever crumbled dried rose petals and used them in an incense mixture, you'll know that rose petals do not smell good at all. So just because things smell good in one form doesn't mean they're going to smell good in another. But I'm doing this to make sure that I don't waste anything. Now let's see if this is ground enough. This is kind of like a fluffy thyme. This could, you know what, it could be ground a little bit more. I'm going to grind it a little bit more. Because there are still pieces that are big enough that I could see them getting in between teeth. Smells really good. Speaking of resin incenses, you know, rosemary, you can definitely smolder this on charcoal. As a matter of fact, if you use it powdered up like this, it will give you, it will hit you in a way that's vaguely reminiscent of frankincense. And frankincense, it starts out smelling good, lemony, fresh, but then after a while, if you don't take it off the charcoal, it'll start to smell burnt. Okay, this is more of the powdery consistency that I was hoping for. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dump this out into another container just temporarily, and then I'm going to grind that. See, this is the rest of. You only want to grind your stuff that's nice and dry, especially considering the way that I'm storing it. I really would prefer to store it in glass, but you don't want to take chances on it getting moldy. So the drier the better, without it drying to the point where the volatile oils have left it that give it the herbs their fragrance and their taste. But that said, I'm going to show you an example of very, very, very old herbs that have not lost their fragrance. This is older than some of you. This my father got from one of the conventions at Atlantic City Convention Hall, when it was called Atlantic City Convention Hall. One of the big conventions that involved a whole lot of cooking, and there's stoves and lots of chefs and lots of merchandise, lots of herbs and canned goods and fresh this and that, just anything about food. I don't remember what this thing was. I don't know if I was in California at the time or what. This was a long time ago. So anyway, my father took this home, was given this one of many things that they gave him home. Uh, and this says 13 ounces. This is ground oregano, McCormick House of Flavor. You would think that for as many decades old as this has to be, this would have had a loss of flavor. And this look, we still have several more years to go. this stuff, I'm sure this is at least another 10 years. And it's not like we don't use it. You can't make spaghetti and clams without it. And this is a real fine ground. So, but something like rosemary, I think I use a lot more, because rosemary, I throw some of that in anything. When I'm cooking, when I make my pork that I like to put over rice, I like to add a little bit of cumin and a little bit of rosemary and a little bit of thyme and sometimes parsley. I didn't cook with parsley casually, but since the garden and having this practically unlimited access to it, I've been using it a lot more. It's a sort of why not use what you have thing. So I'm gonna get these goodies safely into here, and I'm not going to take a chance of making a mess. I am going to use a funnel, and I'm going to stick this. You know what? I can do it right here. Good. And I can see that the dust, this is drying up. You know what? I wonder what would happen if I use the fan. Is that too much for you guys? Can you still hear? Oh. This looks so much like weed. And I don't grind it up to be powdery, but the powder that's the residue that's afterwards that clings to the grinder, it's the same color. Okay, I'm gonna just throw this back into the grinder. And you know what? I don't consider that to be dirt. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on there. So, and if that was a scuzzy move, oh well. Now, oh my goodness. Now I can't believe all that, what the volume was, and when you grind it, it ends up being such a small amount. But hey, when I look at all this other product that I have to clean and dry, okay. I would think that would have to be good enough. But you can't tell till you actually look at it. So this is something that I've been thinking about for quite a while. Then I won't have to think twice about reaching for the rosemary. I won't have to worry about, going to be picking pieces out of my teeth and stuff. You know, if you're someplace where you can't get yourself away to a restroom to go with your toothbrush and pick it out, that stuff can really hurt. Oh, this is too long. That is not. would hope that would have done it. I have not had good experience with grinders, traditional grinders to use for weed. I find that the metal, I don't know what you would call them, that or what makes them work, they can get broken. And okay, yeah, the metal things can break, and of course, the more they are broken, the less there are to grind, and they end up basically becoming useless. So, but the one thing that they do save when you use the grinders, it saves little fine, sharp, spiny pieces getting in your fingers and giving you like that splintery feeling. That really sucks. So, then there's this kind of grinder, and they're really no. You still end up doing it the manual way when you're doing it out in public. But and that's where I could see a little portable grinder being useful. But really, I never liked the idea of having all the extra paraphernalia. Part of it being because the whole thing was not really legal. But the more it's becoming legalized, the less there is a stigma or danger associated with having paraphernalia and stuff. I never thought it was a good idea to spend hundreds of dollars on bongs and stuff, unlike some people that I know. I never saw the point for I guess it's kind of like investing in really expensive cookware. You know you're going to use it, and you know that good cookware can improve your versatility as a chef. So I would imagine that with the right quality of paraphernalia, maybe you could see. One of my goals would be, as a frugal consumer of herbs, my goal would be to get greater enjoyment off of less to save money. So I would think that would be. See, I think that's a smart focus anyway, as somebody who is fiscally responsible. Look at all this stuff, this powdery stuff. This looks just like the same stuff that I scraped into my bowl earlier. If I didn't know any better, I would think that was the same thing. So right now, I'm going to be very, very careful, and I'm going to make sure that all that crap, I mean rosemary, is safely off of here and into the rosemary thing, because I could see not thinking and go and putting that in my bowl. It's the color though is not really the same. It's a little bit, it's brighter. You see, rosemary has a brightness to it that the weed didn't have. But that's just saying that's just because this isn't bright weed. If you had the stuff with the bright orange hairs on it, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But this stuff, this rosemary, has a brighter element. And now I have all this ground rosemary for cooking, for everything. I'm very, 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 very stoked. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't be getting all this so close to my computer keyboard. That just was the wisest thing in the world. I'm going to carefully put the lid on this, and then I'm going to do more of a thorough cleaning of this grinder. I'm not going to be able to do any more rosemary grinding until this stuff here is processed. I've got to do some washing and some drying, and then when it's good and dry, then I'll be able to grind some more. Right now, I'm going to wash this, and I'm going to go ahead. This is the only part of the grinder that is immersible. I'm not going to get this part wet though, because these things will snap off on these, and I've had them happen before. And I don't want to do that to this. Plus, this is not even technically mine. I consider it to be my mother's, and it would kind of be rude for me to break it on weed and stuff. Well, this isn't even weed, so I really don't feel I need to be guilty. Oh, I want to show you those uh, the squid. I got these when I got all the baking stuff. I got one in the garlic sauce. It's not a sauce, just garlic and oil and salt. And the other is just in the oil. I actually got two with the garlic sauce and two in the oil, and then a thing of brown sugar, and I ended up putting back brown sugar and one each of the different kinds of thing to make the money. And that's when the chick was real rude because I had needed to avoid everything. And I'm not going there anytime soon, I'm telling you. You know, maybe she has been having maybe she had a hard day since I could see a whole lot of people getting their last minute Christmas stuff, but still. And as far as waiting for my basket to be unloaded, most of the stores I go to right away, you set your basket on the thing and they start unloading. And her standing saying, you can put the stuff on the thing. She was ordering me around like she got a chance to do exchange of power, changing a role reversal, but role reversal is if our roles were how they used to be hundreds of years ago or something, and she's finally. It was really. I didn't enjoy the feeling from the exchange. There's so many ways I could describe it, but some of them might venture into territory that might make some people feel uncomfortable. So I'm just gonna leave it that I think it'll be quite a long time before I go in that particular store again. You know, you never forget how people make you feel. And I heard that manager couldn't step in fast enough. But now I know why I should have had the brown sugar. The brown sugar is moisture, and it would have given some moistness to those peanut butter cookies that I made. They were so much work. That was really baking is a lot more work and it involves chemistry in a way that stovetop cooking doesn't. And so, and I think, I don't want to say that there's an art to it, but there's certain skills that seem to come into play. I don't have nearly the baking experience that I have with stovetop cooking. Maybe baking is not as necessary a survival skill as cooking is as a rule. If you don't cook, how can you eat? Whereas baking, so many of the things that people bake are considered luxuries and dessert things like the cakes and the pies and things. And with cakes, at least, it's so easy to get a box and read the instructions. And if all it needs is oil and eggs, they're kind of foolproof. Even though the ones I tended to beat things by hand. And I noticed that the time that it took for me to use with a mixer, with a beater, to cream things together. And then if my mother hadn't been packing the shortening in the measuring cup for me and packing the brown sugar. And imagine the time that she saved by doing that. But then again, my usual format when I do these videos is I talk through things and I tell my stories and things, which I realize that might not be everybody's cup of tea and everything, but still, if a person really is pressed for time, maybe they are more gravitating toward things that just show a technique, but are really cleverly edited so that you just see a procedure, bam, 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 but without the real time that that takes. And since I'm not filming in a way that makes editing possible, oh, no, I want to talk to you about something that's really bothering me. We're now into the month of January, and this is, I want to take advantage of the fact that this Lenovo is still under warranty. I am actually filming with my Lenovo. My Lenovo is not broken. I'm very grateful for that. That said, I still need to take this computer to Best Buy. I also need to take my Chromebook to Best Buy. I haven't tried it recently. 3 days ago, it seemed like it had a catastrophic failure. I can't call it a hard drive failure because Chromebooks do not have hard drives. But I got the kinds of error messages that I've never seen before. And so I need to take that to Best Buy. I have this Total Tech Support membership with Geek Squad. But what I'm concerned is this. Say I take everything there. I can do that. What if they hold on to something for a month and I don't have anything to film with? I need to still be able to produce content for my channel. So I feel I need to leave something behind that I know works so that I can at very least make live streams. I would like to have access to a Windows thing so that I can actually put segments together and edit and do things. I have footage you guys haven't seen. I have a couple of makeup tutorials that I have in the can that I made that are here that I never saw fit to post around the holiday time because I just thought that there are other more current things that were more interesting. Even though I know that there's people that love the makeup tutorials that are probably jumping at the bit saying that they want that kind of stuff. So I do have two things that are here. I just, you know, I didn't want to, it never seemed like it was right, especially with Christmas and with so much of the stuff going on with the coronavirus and things. And that's the thing is that now I have all this footage that I shot in Washington, D.C. that's over a year old that it needs to be out there, but I can't help but feel that because there are so many people that know that I love the area and that there are reasons that I often wish I could be there, if not for the COVID and everything, and the violence directed toward people who believe in the same things that I do politically. But if I post the old stuff, it's going to be confusing to people. There's going to be people that are thinking that I'm back out there again. There's people that don't associate me with Atlantic City. There are people that associate me with Washington, D.C. And even though I try to let people know when I'm having computer problems, and that keeps me from being able to post for a while, that's what happened the first time when I dropped a computer in Washington, D.C. And then I had to, I saved up a little bit and I got that Chromebook to tide me over. And I did filming with that, but the thing is, I didn't know until after I bought it. The Chromebook does not have hard drive. It uses your Google Photos, your Google Photos uh, storage area. And the thing is, you don't realize this, but you actually do have a storage limit. And I had already filled up when I was on the Google Plus social network. I filled up using real high resolution digital photography. I had a series of little tiny digital cameras, and they weren't the megapixels that the best ones they make today are. They were different kinds of Sony point and shoot ones. But I posted a whole lot of pictures in very high resolution, not realizing that that would count against my Google Photos limit, even just to post these pictures onto Google Plus. And I didn't realize that that was adding up to my Google Plus allotment, which is, I believe, 15 gigabytes or something, which is still a fairly hefty amount. But if you have thousands and thousands of pictures and you take lots and lots and lots of pictures, and then you add video on top of it, even though I don't know if the videos that are YouTube videos count to that, since they are actually like these live streams, for instance. When I was doing these live streams from my Chromebook, one of the reasons why I discovered them that they were so good to be able to do on that Chromebook is you can do a live stream and it could be hours and hours. Like my Christmas cooking live stream, Christmas Eve with my mother, that was 8.5 hours. Normally that would be using up a whole lot of video, data, video Ks, probably, I don't know if that would be in, definitely in the megabytes. I don't know if it would be in a gigabyte, but think of 8.5 hours of video footage. But if you're live streaming it, you're not taking up space in your hard drive. Even this, I have a hard drive, but this is not using up space in my Windows hard drive. And this isn't stuck in this computer, and yet when this video thing is over, I can go back into YouTube and it's on YouTube. This is why people can watch this a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever. This is in there, and then if I want to, I can download this into the device of my choice later on. So, but live streams don't use up your own. It's everything is in the cloud. So, and I didn't even know that it was that easy until this year when I was in the parking lot of Best Buy, and I discovered, since they had their Wi-Fi, and I was having problems with my home Wi-Fi. Thank goodness the home Wi-Fi is working. I am very, 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 very grateful for that. Okay, this is a little bit damp here, so for that reason, I'm not going to put it on there. This seems clean enough. I see no reason to wash it. I am going to put the rosemary back on the Lazy Susan here. I'm going to turn this out. Oh, I'm going to very carefully bring this into the grow room and then follow me into there. Oh, it's so chilly in here. Chilly, 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 chilly. Brr, 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 brr. Oh, very quick. While I'm in here, there's some things I wanted to show you. Let's see, where can I put this? Sometimes my mother decides that she has too much stuff and she decides to just throw things out. And I really wish she would ask before she does this. I'm going to show you something. And you tell me this makes any kind of sense. So, this is actually supposed to be a water fountain. It's supposed to run on batteries. It has cats. Why would anybody in this house throw out anything with cats on it? That makes no sense to me. This is where batteries are supposed to go. And water goes in here and it's supposed to work. And even if it doesn't work, you hang this up somewhere. This is very heavy. I wouldn't want to drop this on my feet or something. By very heavy, I don't mean like somebody like my mother shouldn't be lifting something like this. But I'm going to guess this is maybe 20 pounds, something like that. But so this would need to be very securely placed someplace. This has 2 brackets on it. This could be hung someplace that could take the weight. Maybe you would need to even find, what do you call those things? Studs? Is that what you're looking for? Yeah. But anyway, I don't know if you need to do that, or else just put it on a mantle or some place that can handle the weight. So my mother was going to get rid of this. There's other things. She had this self-hypnosis weight loss tapes and this whole system. She's invested like $200 in this, and she decided she would just throw it out. And it's like, what the heck? She could sell this. There's always somebody that wants these things. But to just do that, it's such a waste, you know. There was one time there was a place that was having a flea market that wasn't too far from here. But the only thing is, the only time that I ever knew they did it, there was tables and there was no foot traffic at all. And they charge you to rent a table. And I don't know what it is. I think it's something like $25 for the day or something. And that's a lot of pressure to. If there's nobody there and you're selling things, some of which might go for as little as 25 cents each, to make up enough to get the $25 that you're spending to rent a table, I think that's highway robbery. That's kind of like the dance places I heard of that have stage fees that the dancers have to pay. That before they can get even work, they have to give money. It's kind of, I guess, like when you're working in a barber shop and you rent your uh, mirror and your chair, and you actually have to pay for space and a chair in order for the privilege of working. That's just, oh my God, it's ridiculous. The more you're in control of your own production and your income, the better you are. Because the more people have their hands, and then they'll use that as an excuse, take a percentage of the money you're making, and they act like they owe you. So no, don't find yourself in that situation. Anyway, this needs to be dusted. This has been in the same plastic paper bag that she covered it with for I don't know how long. And matter of fact, I keep on stepping on this tail. I want to actually wash it. So, but that needs to be hung up someplace where it will be respected and appreciated. That just really. Now, this I'm going to show you something that I'm thinking of selling. I have a lot of Kiss memorabilia, and I really need to downsize. Is like certain things that I'll probably never get rid of, like my t-shirts and things. But even though the ones that really don't look good on me because they are really way too big, I probably might consider selling them. But this thing here, I don't know if I want to hold on to it or not. The thing is that I am right now just holding it, the act of holding it. I just cracked this, and that has just damaged the value. I try to keep things in the boxes so that I don't damage the resale value, but sometimes, let's face it, things get old, plastic gets brittle. Uh, yeah. Oh, I realized something, that if I am going to be filming out a window for the Trump Plaza implosion, I might need to do something about some of the tape that we put on in advance of Hurricane Sandy. I think it was Sandy. Yeah. Uh, you know, there is a common fallacy that people used to do involving putting tape on windows in advance of a hurricane so that the tape will actually make it so that when the glass uh, hits the wind, the glass is less likely to break. The only problem is now the Weather Channel says that that's not a good idea, because what ends up happening is the glass, instead of breaking up into smaller pieces, the glass stays in bigger pieces, making it even more deadly. So if you look up and down uh, the East Coast, I would venture you would see most windows, by the shore anyway, have X's on them from tape. The reason why this tape residue is on here is my brother used rug tape, not masking tape, but rug tape, with the real serious, thick, heavy adhesive. And apparently the only way you could take this stuff off, my mother says you have to use a scraper, like a red devil scraper. Like my father used to use things like that when he was in the trades. My father was a house painter. My father was a sign painter. My father could make signs using any kind of cardboard or wood, and tape of any kind. He would make lettering. He did not need stencils. My father free-handed uh, lettering that way. I learned so much watching my father, and I learned how to use stencils and how to line up with the holes and the spaces and how to center things. I learned so much from watching my father. He was quite impressive. Now, my mother, I guess she didn't tell you this story. When my mother was in the hospital having me, my father, one of the things she told my father is that he better be there when she had me, or else she wouldn't let him see me. She was afraid of being abandoned because her mother was abandoned by her father, so she didn't want that to happen. Or rather, her mother was abandoned by her husband when she was having her, so she didn't want to be in the same situation. Anyway, when my mother got out of the cab with me out of the hospital, my father made this big sign saying, "Welcome home, Denny." Uh, and it was like a big sign going between our apartment and the neighbor's apartment or something. And half the neighborhood saw the sign and welcomed her and me home or whatever. Obviously, I can't remember that because I was like, what, a week old or something. In those days, they let you have your child for a full week before discharging. I think there was none of this rushing people out. I don't know how long people are allowed to stay in the hospital when they have a baby because I didn't get to have that experience, so I don't know. But yeah, um, let me see if I can get my coffee cup. I have hot tea there, and I'm thirsty. It's probably in my room. Give me a second. Oh, Tabby Boy looked very alert, like there was something on the floor or something. I wonder if there's a mouse in there. I know we have mice. And I don't have a problem with mice. I'm not afraid of mice. I'm not afraid of rats. I like them. I would never consciously and deliberately hurt them. Don't get me started on the evils of glue traps. I rescued them from glue traps before. You use a chopstick and one of those alcohol pads, and you cut them away, as much of them away from the glue as possible. Then you use a chopstick to handle alcohol wipe and use that to get the clean the glue off the poor critter, and you catch it in like a shoebox or something, and you release it to the outdoors. Of course, you can't do that now with the in the wintertime when it's freezing like that. The poor thing would freeze to death. Yeah. So I just assume that they're up there, let them, just like the pigeons roost in here, and I know there's termites. Let this, I can have this attitude because I am not the homeowner. And it's not that I don't respect where I live, but there are critters that were here before we were here and are probably eating this house up. I can't wait to get out of here. But I don't have a problem with rats and mice. But Tabby Boy does, and he's a hunter. And there was something I found. My mother got really upset at a body was found in her room, and I took it. I actually was holding on to it for a while. I was going to show it on video, and 3 days in a row I forgot. And I think I finally started to smell funny in my room. So I took it out and I threw it down into Ace's office where there are other mice and stuff. And I mean, I hope that they're enjoying their nice life there in eating things. I hope that my brother never puts any traps or anything that hurts them. Just don't hurt them. Let them live. He hardly ever goes in that room anyway. And and he insists on throwing these big. When he finally throws his trash out, he throws these big garbage bags full of trash. It includes throwing recycling out too, and that drives me batty. You know, I wish I could be more of a house beautiful type. I know that I have issues with clutter and stuff, and I'm working on that. But one thing I cannot abide by is people throwing out their recycling. Put the recycling for the recycling. I'm happy that there's this one particular place that has real big recycling bins, and I save most of our paper and a lot of our recycling, and I take it there. Since our own personal recycling bins have a habit of getting wings and disappearing, so I saw that the gate to this place, recycling bins in their parking lot was open this morning. So I took like 4 loads of recycling in. I took all the paper recycling, including some of the Christmas wrap, and I took in a bunch of cans and bottles and stuff. My brother's pizza boxes and all that stuff. I felt like, oh, I felt so good that I got rid of so much crap, you know. Because sometimes uh, taking things down, Wednesday night is when we take out the trash and recycling, and that's picked up like early Thursday morning usually. But sometimes the last thing I feel like doing is going out there dealing with it in the wee hours. Usually I do it around 3, 4 in the morning, late Wednesday, figuring that a lot of times that's when it's sometimes is quieter, and especially if it's been a particularly windy day, I don't want to set things out to get blown around outside. So I wait until as late as possible, and the places that have the big recycling bins, I can go and put things in there, and I know they're not going to get kicked around and stuff by the assholes that hang out. You know, there was somebody that was wanting to get back to where our neighbors are dealing drugs or something like that. And he actually saw me. I was looking out the grow room, looking out the window, and he was yelling for somebody to let him in. And I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe one of our neighbors must have his ear perched just for people yelling to be let in, because somebody always hears and goes outside and goes in the gate and unlocks it and opens up and lets these people in. And I could only imagine how many copies of the key there must have been. And when they broke it, within a day or two, it was fixed. And I don't think that they went and got a totally new lock and had new keys made. I'm sure it was the same lock. And I think half the neighborhood dirtbags have a copy of it. And then somebody offered to give me a copy of the key if I paid him $2. I said, no, I don't need a copy of that key. I don't need to go back down there. I don't need to, if I want to take my trash or my recycling out, I know where to go. I don't need to go there where I'm trapped between dirt bags on one side, dirt bags on another or something. No, I don't. Plus, if I don't have a key back there, then nobody could say that I was back there. I don't have any ties back there. So if any shit goes down there, you cannot attach it to me. I have no, I don't need back there. I think 3 or 4 times in my life I was ever back there for. And then, okay, there are times when the little old lady would have a bag of recycling, and I would take these big bags and I would make sure they would go. Sometimes I would take them and I would put them where I put my recycling, because otherwise I've seen some other neighbors take these recycling and put them in trash bags, and that just drives me crazy. So when my brother throws recycling out in trash, that really bums me out. And here in the city, there is no excuse. Every other street corner, sometimes on every street corners, there are recycling bins, big blue municipal bins. The only problem is their hole to stick things in is only about this big, so certain things really don't fit in unless you bend them, like the full size 1 gallon milk jugs. They don't fit in. Sometimes the 2 liter soda things, and they make 3 liter bottles too now. Sometimes they don't fit in. So, and then if you have things that are big paper, bulky things, now I'm glad that they have boxes for pizza boxes, but still nothing for mask disposal. Now, what if there was virus on a mask? There's certainly biological waste from our noses and from our mouths and things that is, I thought, considered hazardous waste. Not to mention, whenever you have loops and strings, that washes out to sea, and sea life gets strangled in it. You know, you always got to cut your 6-packs from your beverages and things. Anything that makes a loop, anything kind of string like that, I always cut things. And you see masks everywhere, sometimes gloves too. Why, if we have pizza boxes, why don't we have mask disposal things? It seems to be you're asking people more and more to take this pandemic seriously. And I get the feeling that most people, the only reason why they have masks on at all is so that they could ride the bus, so they can go buy something in the store. If it wasn't for that, so many people don't care. They know that in order to function in society, they have to at least give lip service to following the rules. I'm going to, oh, there's another herb. I don't know if I've shown you guys before or haven't in a while. It is called, it's what I think it is. This is either borage or lemon balm, but I think it might be lemon balm. And this is dry now. This looks like mint, but how you can tell is that it smells very lemony. And the only thing I really know to do with it is you can make a tea with it, and it has occult uses, you know, magic, witchcraft, that kind of thing. But other than that, I don't know. And I imagine that, I don't know, maybe something about it is in some of my plant books. I have some books about different kinds of herbs. Some of them I have, one of the things I have, I think it's only in Los Angeles, I have a copy of Culpeper's, I forget what the other part of it is, but anyway, it's a famous book. What am I doing? I'm talking to you, Carlos. Culpeper's Herbal. And it's a famous book from the 1600s about herbs that are used for culinary purposes and are used for medicinal purposes. This just fell onto my floor, and before I put it back hanging up, I am going to clean it off, and I can't wash it